What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Stochastic Best Ball channel. I am Matt Savoca at Draftaholic on Twitter, and we are back breaking down every single team in every single division and every single fantasy relevant player as a way to introduce you guys to the Stochastic projections and rankings for the 2022 season. Here to break it down with me, as he is every single one of these breakdowns, is Nick Lepre. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. What is up, buddy?
How are you doing? How's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's having an excellent day. And here we have the quote unquote, some people might say the best division in all of football, certainly one of the more interesting divisions. So I'm very excited to talk about a division that is going to have a million, hopefully high scoring games this season.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and we're glad you're here. I know that you had some injuries within the immediate family that you were dealing with over the last 24 hours. So very much appreciate it that you are here breaking it down with me. And yeah, this division is just awesome, awesome. I mean, looking at these second to last and last place teams by expected wins in the sports books. There is so much talent here, and from a fantasy perspective, we're just taking chances on all of these teams for obvious reasons. The quarterbacks are great. Some of the defenses are good, but most of them are just kind of okay at best, which is leading to a lot of expected high Vegas totals, a lot of 50 plus totals expected out of the AFC West. Let's get into this one. The Las Vegas Raiders are technically projected to be the last place team, 8.5 wins in the sports books. I've seen some discrepancies there, but 8.5 wins is the one I've been seeing most often. They got a new coach in Josh McDaniels, a new OC in Mick Lombardi, and a new DC in Patrick Graham. Of course, the big splash move is to trade for and sign Davante Adams. The college shower narrative is in play for Derek Carr and Davante Adams, who were great college teammates, really excellent, and now get a chance to do it in the pros. How are you feeling about that duo? Adams in the first round, and do you feel like either of these secondary or tertiary options, like Waller or Renfro, are actually better values at their respective ADPs?
I personally think that Devontae Adams is just a smash pick inside of the first round. It's pretty obvious just how good the guy is and that he will be able to be good regardless of the quarterback situation. Obviously, going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr is a step down, but it's not this like
It's Hall of
fall off
Famer to
the
Hall of
edge of the
Famer.
earth. Yeah, Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Rodgers did get Hall of Fame receiver Alan Lazard anyway, so he's going to be just fine. But it's not that crazy of a fall off. It's not like he went from Aaron Rodgers to Taylor Heineke or something like that, right? He's going to be just fine. And I think that Devontae Adams is going to just be good in this offense. I mean, to be honest with you, it makes perfect sense, right? Devontae Adams is a ball hawk in the red zone. You throw the ball anywhere near this guy, he is going to catch the ball. So Devontae Adams is certainly worthy of a first round pick. And I definitely would not be surprised at all if he was the number one receiver in fantasy football at the end of the season. I love Hunter Renfrow still, and I think a lot of people are a little bit nervous about him because technically they're thinking that Devontae Adams is going to be just eating into his target share. But this team has one of the most amount of vacated targets in the NFL. I believe it is 234. If that number is incorrect, it is at least 200 plus vacated targets in this offense. And I think that Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow are going to be able to mutually both have great seasons. So I think Hunter Renfrow is an excellent value right now around pick 85.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's held steady despite this team getting hyped up in the media and hyped up in fantasy circles. But Renfro, early spring ADP was about 85, 86, and now it's 84, 85. Whereas Darren Waller has actually seen more of a fall. He was about 40, 41 in early ADP and now is outside the top 50 players. Here's the deal. Carr, the quarterback, must improve his 3.7% touchdown rate. He must improve it. And the reason Davante Adams was brought in was for there to be no excuses about improving that touchdown rate. One of these players, in my opinion, is scoring 10 touchdowns. Does it have to be Davante Adams if you played this season out 100 times? Not every time, no. Certainly the most likely one. Darren Waller at 51.2, really interesting. Again, if healthy, he's been held out of a lot of training camp, again, with soft tissue issues. That worries me. I think Derek Carr is a great pick at 108th overall in ADP. I'm even taking chances on Zamir White, who continues to creep up draft boards. He was outside the top 200 in the spring, but I think people are recognizing that this is going to be a running back by committee, and I think he might actually be the most talented back in that backfield. Certainly Josh Jacobs is going to be the one, but there have been red flags all over the place. I'm happy to see him fall outside the top 70. Are you taking chances on this running game, or am I just crazy, just taking some wild guesses in best ball right now with these two players?
Yeah, I've drafted all of them. I even include Kenyon Drake because I think Kenyon Drake is a little bit better than people give him credit for. And if this really is one of those full on committee systems, I think we do see games where Kenyon Drake, who is talented in my opinion, ends up showing up in your roster, in your lineup, obviously, as a player that you actually use in a week. I also do think that Josh Jacobs is now just becoming an immense value because to me, he is the best running back on this roster. And I think what if this isn't a committee, right? Everyone's talking about it being a very big committee. What happens if it's not? I think the most likely outcome is that Josh Jacobs is the bell cow back here. And at pick 71, I'm just fine taking that risk. Again, I understand when I'm drafting him. I'm not super excited for Josh Jacobs, but I do think that there is that kind of outcome where what happens if also Derek Carr doesn't up his touchdown rate, right? And what if they're just running the ball in the red zone and Josh Jacobs somehow scores a crazy amount of touchdowns? That's also possible. So I like Josh Jacobs a decent amount. Again, not a guy that I would dub as a must draft candidate, though. Far from that, if I'm being honest.
Man, in best ball, if we're just talking about strictly best ball, I don't know why you need Josh Jacobs. I think the spike weeks are not going to be that spectacular here. Consistency wise, could he end up with a season where he's scoring 9 to 12 fantasy points a game for your season long league as a running back, too?
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. That's in the range of outcomes pretty easily. But I don't know, man. Like 20, I guess the final year of his rookie contract narrative where they just run him into the ground is still in play.
Mhm.
But the running back by committee seems much more likely to me. And yet, I was the one sort of hyping up this running back game. I guess I'm just a little bit into the new hotness in Zamir White, who, despite being I believe, an early day 3 pick, I think has a lot of talent. Let's move to the Denver Broncos, who have an even higher win total. I've seen it at 9.5, 10, 10.5 in some places. They have a new head coach in Nathaniel Hackett, the old Packers offensive coordinator. They have a new OC in Justin Outen, who is also with the Packers staff. And they also have a new defensive coordinator in Ejiro Evero, who was the Rams' secondary coach most recently. The big gain, Russell Wilson. That is a huge, huge boon for this team compared to the Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock experience last year. Noah Fant also moves over to the Seattle Seahawks, so they're not going to have his services. But between the excitement for the young running back in Javonte Williams, the excitement for these two big wide receivers in Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and the new quarterback, this is a team where we're seeing drastic shifts in ADP, all of them inside the top 80 players. Do you have a favorite amongst Javonte Williams, Sutton, Jeudy, and Russell Wilson himself?
Yeah, I definitely think Cortland Sutton is the best. I've been banging the drum for Cortland Sutton for months. I've said Cortland Sutton is a better receiver for fantasy than Jerry Jeudy. And then the millisecond Tim Patrick got hurt, Cortland Sutton's ADP moved. And the reason behind that is because I think people were worried that Tim Patrick was going to somehow take away a bunch of touchdown upside from Cortland Sutton. And if you run the season back and Tim Patrick is there, maybe that is correct, right? But now we don't have to worry
Sure.
about Tim Patrick. And now Cortland Sutton is going to be the guy. He's the big bodied wide receiver there when compared to Jerry Jeudy. I think Cortland Sutton is in for a humongous season. I've been drafting him since he was going at pick 53. Now he's all the way up to pick 33. And I think it's still acceptable to draft him at that point. And his draft ADP is so different from draft to draft. It's crazy. I see him going in the early third round and the middle of the fourth round in some drafts. So I think Sutton is a little bit of a polarizing player right now because I think people are kind of unsure of what to do with this Denver team as a whole. But I love Cortland Sutton. And obviously, when I draft Cortland Sutton, I want to draft Russell Wilson because I just love their week 17 matchup.
Obviously, they're facing the Chiefs. If you look at the slate of games, it's very easy to look at that game as the most likely to be the highest total game of the week, most likely to be very high on the stochastic top stacks tool over on the DFS side of things. Follow us over at the Stochastic DFS channel, by the way. We got you covered all season long in the DFS world with Alex Osimo Baker, Steve the Colts Buzzard, just a all-star cast over there helping you out every single week. But I digress. In best ball, this is the same exact thing. We need to think backwards. Week 17, Denver, Kansas City goes off. You're going to have a ton of players from those games. That's pushing the ADP higher. I do need to mention, though, that Jerry Jeudy's ADP was originally earlier in drafts than Cortland Sutton. You
Yes.
mentioned the variance. I've seen Jeudy go before in recent drafts. Jeudy go before Sutton, and I've seen Sutton go way before Jeudy in others.
Mhm.
Player and league preferences mean a huge thing here. You mentioned the variance. I still think Jerry Jeudy, with first round draft capital and when healthy, a clear high target share with those old quarterbacks. I think we're just seeing a player who is hashtag good get underrated here. I am fine with Jerry Jeudy as the quote unquote wide receiver two on this team. Now let's talk about this running back situation because I know. Melvin Gordon has been one of your dudes all season long. I kind of been the other way. I think Javonte Williams fits the breakout profile, the breakout candidate profile. And I think that Javonte Williams amount of red zone touches when the team did not have that many red zone touches last year, and the amount of forced missed tackles indicate to me that they know this guy is really good, and Melvin Gordon is just there to back him up. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I believe you are wrong. I don't know if you saw the tweet the other day where Melvin Gordon is banged up right now, so that is something to worry about. But one of the beat reporters for Denver tweeted about how he had something on his like leg, but he's
I
like,
saw this.
then Melvin Gordon like retweets. I don't remember exactly what he said, but basically it was something like, "You're goofy. That was just my phone. Like I'm listening to my AirPods. You silly goose." Is basically what he said, which I thought was hilarious. But I think that if Melvin Gordon is healthy, I truly believe that this is going to be a split. Now, could I be wrong? Definitely. So when I'm doing my best ball drafts, I am drafting some Javonte Williams because I understand there is an outcome where I am very wrong. Javonte Williams, since he's so good, he is the clear number one running back. The Denver Broncos are smashing in these games. They're running the ball late, and Javonte Williams is just a league winner and a potential top three running back. But I also think there's an outcome, which is what I believe is the most likely outcome, where Javonte Williams is looking good, but Melvin Gordon's still there. They tag Melvin Gordon in on the goal line. Melvin Gordon vultures touchdowns. It could look a little bit more like last year than people think. So again, I'm not full fade on Javonte Williams, but I think Melvin Gordon right now, assuming he's going to be perfectly fine to start the season, which is every report I've read, then I think you want to have at least some shares of Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I'm not saying leave best ball season without Melvin Gordon, but I'm also saying that this team just, I think they know what they have. It's a hunch, I guess. The profile
Mhm.
is really, really strong. The burst score, 73rd percentile. Agility score, 89th percentile. 94th percentile in yards per carry of all prospects over the last 10 years. Just a really, really strong candidate to be a breakout star coming out of North Carolina, and now has a quarterback that can get him in more advantageous situations. We should talk for a minute about these tertiary options. We've got KJ Hamler, who's moved way up in ADP since the Tim Patrick season-ending injury. I'm a huge fan of Albert O, the tight end, but he's going to face some competition from rookie tight end Greg Dulcich, who apparently is going to be a receiving option right away. We don't usually see rookie tight ends make an impact unless there's some sort of Kyle Pitts level prospect. But the third rounder Dulcich has made some noise here in the preseason and training camp. I still think Albert O is one of the best values in drafts at 132. But do you have a favorite here of Albert O, KJ Hamler, Greg Dulcich, or are you sticking with that core five players that we previously talked about?
Oh, I'm just drafting Albert O, and I don't understand why people are drafting Greg Dulcich, if I'm being honest with you. He went last night, I was doing a draft, and he went in like the 15th round. People are just crazy about preseason training camp hype. I just don't get it at all. I think Albert O will be the guy. Albert O, coming out of college, looked like he had the profile to be one of the better tight ends in the NFL. So I think that Albert O here is going to dominate. And I really just don't get why people are drafting Greg Dulcich, if I'm being honest with you. Do you understand it? Are you part of the hype train, maybe?
I mean, I'm fine with it as like a last round pick, as in like maybe that's the DFS differentiator. But the thing is, he's a player who is getting picked in a lot of drafts because people are thinking the same way as me for that week 17 correlation. I mean, 725 receiving yards in 10 games, 17.3 yards per reception, almost 20 yards per reception his junior season. He's an interesting prospect. Had 10 touchdowns over his last 19 college games. He profiles as like a tweener, a move tight end who can catch passes. It's not always a player who gets on the field a lot, but if he does in a Russell Wilson offense, we've seen Russell Wilson make tight end twos like Will Disley or a Hollister brother fantasy relevant. So I do think that this is possible, but far less likely than the ADPs imply. Okay, before we move on to the two division favorites, although the Broncos and this next team are neck and neck if you look at certain sports books, I want to talk to you guys about our presenting sponsor, Drafters. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the banner at the bottom of the screen. If you're already signed up for sites like Underdog Fantasy and need more action, look no further. And if you are looking for soft best ball contests in places where the stochastic rankings can really take you far, and you might have overlay, as in these contests may not fill, Drafters has got you covered, and so do we at Stochastic. For a limited time, make your first deposit of at least $20 over at Drafters and get a $20 ticket free into the Drafters $1 million Best Ball Championship. To claim your ticket, you just click the link in the video description below or go to drafters.com and use promo code Stochastic, STOKASTIC. If you put in 2 entries to the $1 million contest, we will kick in a free gift over at Stochastic.com. The Best Ball and Fantasy Football Draft Kit, a $70 value, absolutely free, just for using that promo code and making 2 entries into the $1 million Drafters contest. They've also got low entry options. The 222 contest, one of my favorite, also probably not going to fill. Get in there today. Drafters is awesome, and they've been an awesome partner so far. Really, really great stuff. Just all around the best ball space. Get in there today. All right, guys. The Los Angeles Chargers, one of the most hyped teams in the NFL this year. 10 wins in some sports books, 10.5 wins in others. Brandon Staley back for yet another season, his 3rd with the team as head coach. We got 3 players, really 4 if you're counting the quarterback, who are extremely high in ADP, all inside the top 50. Eckler, you're probably going to have to spend a top 7 pick on. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, really, really interesting from a best ball perspective, and I definitely want your opinion on that. And then Justin Herbert is typically going as a top 4 quarterback, though there is some variance in there. Am I crazy?
Right.
Is 1 second. Am I crazy about the way people are playing Mike Williams and Keenan Allen? And isn't Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen one of the easiest duos to pair up this year?
Yeah, that was the thing that I was going to point out. I was going to point out the ADP from a couple months ago compared to now, right? Keenan Allen was going like 10, 11 picks ahead of him at pick 28.1, and then Mike Williams was 39.1. Now they're basically going back to back. That makes absolutely no sense, in my opinion. Like, I understand why people like Mike Williams in best ball, because he has those crazy spike weeks where this guy puts your team on his back, scores like 25 points, has the potential to probably hang one of those crazy 40-point games. But at the end of the day, Keenan Allen has that exact same upside while also being significantly safer. We know how good Keenan Allen is. I understand, he's getting up there in age. The guy's been getting up there in age the last couple of years, and he's still really fucking good. So I don't understand why him and Mike Williams are going back-to-back, Jordan 96, 97. It really makes no sense, to be honest with you. And I think that Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen is the stack to have. I have a bunch of teams that actually have Allen and Williams and Herbert together, but that is impossible to do right now. Literally impossible. I would be shocked if I saw a team that can do that right now.
Yeah, you just can't do it. That's a good point. You literally just can't do it. So if you have those stacks from earlier when the ADP had a higher discrepancy, that's actually a really plus EV move. Sometimes you got to take stands in best ball season, and it's helped me be profitable over the last few years, but that also means there are going to be natural swings. And one of the ways that I have a natural negative swing this year is if Mike Williams is the skeleton key to best ball seasons. I'm just not a believer right now. This 5th-year player could break out. The potential to break out is there. The offense is strong enough, but I think Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler are superior players and pass catchers on this team. I would much rather take chances on late-round receivers like Josh Palmer, their 3rd-round pick from a year ago, Gerald Everett, who they signed to the tight end position, even Jalen Guyton or Donald Parham, who are essentially free. Justin Herbert's going to throw a ton on this offense. Absolutely fine with him as my quarterback 1, by the way. In my first round of my own personal simulations, he came up as quarterback 2. Softened on him a little bit, but that's just showing you the upside, even as a player who doesn't rush as much as, say, a Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. By the way, I want to add there, Justin Herbert is a great red zone rusher. He's big
Yeah.
bodied, strong, and in the same way that players like Josh Allen and Cam Newton have found red zone rushing success, that is not out of the range of outcomes for Justin Herbert as well. So passing volume, passing talent around him, and red zone rushing upside, that's top three quarterback upside for me. So this team, man, I love them from a fantasy perspective. The rest of the industry does, but I still think we are actually underrating Keenan Allen and possibly Austin Eckler, who can get there on receiving volume and not just another 20 touchdown season.
Yeah, I think Austin Eckler is being immensely underrated, if I'm being honest with you. Earlier on in the offseason, I would take him at pick 3, right? If McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor are gone, I'll just take Austin Eckler. Now I've been a little bit more, because you don't want to just be stuck holding the bag, right? You don't want to just draft Austin Eckler a million times at pick number 3, 4, 5. So I've drafted the receivers, and I understand why you might want to do that. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Eckler was the number 1 running back in fantasy football. Like, he is one of the only guys in the NFL that can get 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving yards in the exact same season. Now, obviously, is that the most likely outcome? Of course not. But is it possible? Is it in the realm of outcomes? I think so. So I'm a huge fan of Austin Eckler, and I think that he's kind of a no-brainer pick inside the first round. I think people are thinking way too in depth when it comes to Austin Eckler, like trying to forecast his downfall.
How about this? Austin Eckler could have 100 fantasy points minimum. 100 fantasy points in the receiving category just by yardage. 100 fantasy points in the rushing category just by yardage, and 100 fantasy points in the touchdown category as well, which would be about
Yeah.
16 to 17 touchdowns. That's not including any of the PPR receptions, depending on what type of league you're looking at. Drafters,
Yeah.
whole PPR, or underdog, half PPR. This guy could have an amazing season. They also could have an amazing defense on the Chargers. We were early when we first did the division previews, we picked them to go to the Super Bowl. That's how good this defense can be as well. If there's one thing that's lowering the shootout potential of these AFC West games, it's any team that's playing the Chargers could be bum rushed by Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and great secondary players like Derwin James and newly acquired JC Jackson. I love this team. We move on to the Kansas City Chiefs, the still favorites in this division, but they lose their number 1 wideout in Tyreek Hill, traded to the Miami Dolphins. They had a bunch of wide receivers with hype and hyphenated names: Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They also add safety Justin Reed, Ronald Jones, who may not make the team. This team still has plenty of firepower, still has Travis Kelce, although going into his age 32-33 season. And of course, they still have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has fallen from the 38th pick earlier in the year to 52nd. How do you explain that lowering ADP?
For which player? Sorry.
For Patrick Mahomes, that's the one that really sticks out to me. 38th earlier in the offseason, now 52nd, and going behind other players at his position.
To be honest with you, I don't know how to explain that. I don't think that makes any sense. I think most rational players should think that Patrick Mahomes, even without Tyreek Hill, should be good. Because again, even if none of Juju, none of MVS, Sky Moore, McCole Hardman end up stepping up to that crazy level Tyreek Hill is at, it's not like Mahomes is just going to be bad. Like, he could just spread the ball around, have a relatively decent season, and finish as quarterback 1 at the end of the season. I guess obviously not a relatively decent season is going to get you to quarterback 1.
Yeah, he'll have to have a great season.
Yes, but with the receivers they have there, to me, he can do that. He can spread the ball around. There could be games where Sky Moore hangs 30 points. There could be games where MVS does the same thing, Juju, and Patrick Mahomes ends up playing really, really good. And I think that all these running backs here that are on the team that people are targeting are also guys that can catch passes. So I think Patrick Mahomes is in a really good situation this year. And to be honest with you, pick 52.1 is an absolute steal. And I guess people have just talked themselves so much into maybe the downfall of the Chiefs, or maybe they've talked themselves into the fact that you need a Konami code quarterback because Patrick Mahomes doesn't have this crazy rushing upside unless it's the playoffs that he actually runs the ball. But why risk it in the regular season? That's what they're probably thinking. But to be honest with you, I think that's crazy. And I think there could be an argument made that Patrick Mahomes should be drafted as the QB2 off the board. And that wouldn't surprise me. Like, I would take him quarterback 2 off the board personally.
So I think it's all about the rushing upside people are trying to capture in best ball drafts. That's making
Definitely.
this fall. And besides that, it makes no sense, especially when Travis Kelce's ADP has stayed steady, right at about 12th overall. Juju Smith-Schuster has moved earlier in drafts over the course of the offseason. Marcus Valdes-Scantling has moved to earlier in drafts than earlier in the offseason. Mecole Hardman, same thing, now earlier in drafts. Sky Moore, who has dealt with a little bit of injuries and I think he's fine, but has moved down a little bit. In general, though, these receivers keep holding steady or moving up in drafts, while Mahomes moves down to a later part of the draft. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that's incongruous. I got that word wrong on a previous stream. I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. The player I'm totally out on at this point is Ronald Jones. I got some exposure to him earlier in the offseason when I thought it was making more sense. He may not make the team with the way that Isaiah Pacheco has stood out in training camp and preseason so far. We're still a couple weeks out from the season. We're talking about a late round player in Pacheco, but that's, I think, the last person we want to mention as like a dart throw, because if you don't know about Sky Moore, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Mecole Hardman, or Juju Smith-Schuster, you've already missed the boat. All of them are great options at ADP, especially when you're stacking with Patrick Mahomes and other Denver Broncos. For me, it's like take your pick and try to get two, but I want to focus on this running back core. Are you in at all on any of these three players? And we can include Edwards-Helaire here.
So initially, I was very in on Ronald Jones. I thought it was pretty clear that based upon the running back room that he was the number 2 guy. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's absolutely absurd that he would get cut. But I do think that now he's at a point where I'm just not going to draft him, right? I've already drafted him a bunch of times. If he ends up working out, then, maybe I guess I should have started drafting him at pick 174, getting that 50 pick discount. But right now, I'm just out on Ronald Jones. And I still on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire train. I still genuinely believe he is the best running back in this room, and he's pick 85.8. So it's not like Pacheco is pick 1,000. What pick is Pacheco right now? Like, he's screaming up the board. I've seen him get picked in like the 140s.
150, 140 in some drafts now. It's really high.
So like 140. So you're definitely getting a big discount with Pacheco. But I still think Edwards-Helaire is at enough of a discount at pick 85.8 right now that I'm just taking the shots on him. And if it ends up not working out, it is what it is, right? Because it's not like he's your first or second round pick like previous years. I think he still has some left in the tank, and I just think he's the best running back all around in this backfield. But I think you want to be taking shots on Helaire and Pacheco and then just not draft any of the other players. But then, of course, it's going to end up being just the other running back whose name is escaping me that we didn't even bring up. He's going to be the guy that's really good. Jerick McKinnon.
Jerick McKinnon, I'm sure that's how it goes, right? Honestly, my favorite parts of the draft to take chances on Chiefs, right around pick 80 to 120. You can often get 3 of Edwards-Helaire, Sky Moore, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Mecole Hardman, all attached to a Patrick Mahomes offense. 4 up, 4 down. This has been the AFC West, arguably the most exciting division in football. Honestly, guys, if you're just stacking up players from this division, you're probably going to have a good time in best ball drafts this season. Make sure to follow Nick over on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. My name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic. This may be the end of the division previews. I got to check my notes, but I think this is all of them. This is all the teams. Happy to do it, and we're going to be with you all best ball summer long and into the regular season. For Nick, I'm Matt. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.